Okay, so let's look at this offensive basketball system in which we're going to combine the circle offense and the flex offense. Okay, so let's break it down and let's take a look. So as we can see, we're kind of lined up here in a 5-out to start. Okay, we're going to have all players outside of the 3-point line. Okay, that's how we're going to start. We're going to start with the ball in the middle right here in number one's hand. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get the basketball to the wing. So we're going to have number one feed the basketball to number four. And as that happens, number one is going to come up here to the high post, and they're going to be ready to set some screens. Okay, the first screen that they're going to set is for number three. Number three is going to curl, right? Number one is going to set that screen on the way, or rather probably more so right here, right? And number three then is going to curl to the basket. Okay, as number three curls, we might get a wide open layup here for number three. If we do get that, we will feed the basketball to number three. Okay, who knows for sure if we will get that or not? Okay, but we're going to prepare to look for it either way. We're going to look for that opportunity. Okay, in addition to that screen that number one is setting on number three, number one is also going to set a screen for number two, who is going to curl up to number one's original spot. So number one's going to set that screen about right here. And number two is curling to about the 3-point line in the middle of the floor, the area where number one was to start. Okay, so now we're going to feed the ball back, okay, to number two. Okay, number two has the ball again, and as that happens, number one is going to pop out to the 3-point line extended. Okay, and as that happens, number three is going to set a flex screen right here for number five. Number five's coming off that screen, and we're going to get the ball down low to number five. Okay, so as you can see there, we have multiple options with this offense. We have multiple different places we can get the ball to. Right? We're combining that circle offense and the flex offense, right, to have multiple opportunities for wide open layups. Okay, and in addition to the wide open layups, we also had number one screening here for number two. When number two came off the screen and curled, that could also be a wide open 3-point shot if you have maybe you're an older team and you have an elite 3-point shooter on your team, then there's another opportunity for that as well. So lots of different opportunities here with this particular offensive system. And now the cool thing about it as well is if we didn't get the ball into number five, right, when number five comes here and does that flex cut, the reason that we're going to call this a system and not just an offensive basketball play is because number five can then clear out, as we know number one has already popped, and now we are set up the exact same way. We can get the ball in here to number one, and now we'll bring number two here to the high post, and we can run that offense again the exact same way that we did it before. All right, so the next offensive system that we're going to take a look at is the Horns offense. Okay, so let's do a brief overview of the Horns offense and then talk about some plays that we can incorporate within that system. Now, the whole idea with the Horns offense is that you would have two of your bigs aligned at the elbow of the key. So as we can see here, we have number five at one elbow and number four at the other elbow, right? We want to bring our bigs up high, right? With a lot of basketball plays where it's not a 5-out, you'll often see your bigs, stationed down low around the rim, but that's the opposite of what we want to do on a Horns offense. On a Horns offense, we want to have our bigs up high near the elbow, and we want to have our shooters over here nice and wide spacing the floor. Now, with the Horn offense, this is just how we set up. But the whole idea with the Horns offensive system is that there are so many different sets. There's so many different things that you can play with within that Horns offense. So let's take a look at a few different options that we can utilize here within the Horns. First, let's start with a super basic Horn set. Now, for this particular option, we're going to have both number five and number four set a double screen here for our point guard, number one. Now, this is a very basic option, right? Not a super complicated option. We'll go over some more complicated options within the Horns as we continue looking at this. But again, we can have both of our Horns players, both of our bigs, set a screen here for our point guard. Now, our point guard can either choose to go left or choose to go right. Doesn't really matter. It's up to that point guard. But what's going to happen is the side that they do choose to go on, right? Say in this particular side, we went to the left, right? We will then have the other player, the player who set the screen, roll to the basket. So we'll play a little two-man game there down low. And the good thing about the horn set is then it keeps our shooters, number 2 and number 3, wide, so that if we do have a double team and they stop our two-man game here, then we should have some shooters wide open to the basket. But again, this is just a pretty basic horn set. There are a lot of other things that we can do within the horns as well. Let's take a look at that. So for this next option here that we're going to look at, let's start with a little ball screen for number 1, our point guard. Now this is going to be a little bit of a decoy. We're not really going to use that initial screen that was set here by number 4. As number 4 sets that screen for number 1, they're immediately going to turn back around and set a ball screen for number 5. So 4 is going to come set a ball screen here for number 5. So that's where we're at right now. Then immediately, number 5 is going to come set another ball screen here for number 1. And number 4 is going to go set a ball screen or an off ball screen rather, in the corner for number 3. So this is where we're at right now. Number 1 is going to come off that screen there by number 5. And number 5 is going to roll to the basket. So we have a pick and roll here between number 1 and number 5. But as that is happening, number 3 is also coming up to the three-point line. Number 3 should be one of your outside shooters, right? If it is a younger age group, you can make it, a little bit closer with inside the three-point line. But number 3 is coming off that screen, and they're going to be outside ready to shoot the basketball if we get a double team in here or a triple team. Or some really good help defense, or maybe we had some of the defense switch on screens. We couldn't really get a two-man action down low, but now we'll also have a shooter wide open back here at the three-point line that we can kick it out to, or we can take our chances under the rim. So there are lots of different things that you can do within the horns offense, but like I said, the whole idea of the horns is that we set up by putting our shooters outside the three-point line and our bigs at the elbow of the key. Okay, let's take a look here at the 4 out, 1 in offense and how we will set up. So we're going to go over a play in a minute, the perfect 4 out, 1 in play, in my opinion. It's one of my favorites, but let's just quickly go over how to set up for a 4 out, 1 in. So as we can see here, we have 4 players set up outside of the three-point line and 1 player set up inside of the three-point line. So it's very simple. It's as simple as that. We have 4 players outside and 1 player in. So if you're running a 5 out, right, which is, some of the most commonly used offensive systems come from a 5 out, you're just bringing this player outside of the three-point line. But for a 4 out, 1 in, you're going to have this player inside of the three-point line. This is probably going to be one of your stronger post players if you have one, or one of your bigs, but it doesn't have to be. It can be anybody on your team. Now, a lot of players like to have this 1 in player in the dunker spot, which means that, if a player drives to the basket and the defense collapses, they can often dish it over to their post player in the dunker spot to get what would be known in the NBA as a dunk. But most likely, if you're dealing with younger teams, it'll be a layup, or, if you're dealing with maybe high school ages, you might be able to get a dunk in there as well. But for this particular play that we're going to look at for a 4 out, 1 in offense, we're going to bring the post player here around the free throw line, kind of as if we were going to run a horn style offense, but again, we only have that 1 player in. Okay, so what we're going to do right here is we're going to have this player penetrate into the three-point line a little bit. Okay, our first option is going to be that number 1 with the basketball is going to come right here, tight to number 5, and number 5 is going to set a screen for them. And we're going to have a pick and roll here between number 5 and number 1, right? Number 1 driving to the basket and number 5 rolling. So our options right here are for number 1 to drive, number 5 to roll, but then we also have our shooters outside of the key ready to shoot the basketball and or catch and drive, right? So sometimes, the reason that some coaches use a 4 out, 1 in instead of a 5 out is because it allows for a penetration to happen, a paint touch to happen a little bit quicker than you might get in a 5 out motion offense. And that, allows the defense to start moving, and then your offense is moving as well. Okay, but that's just our first option. That's not our main option of this play. We're going to look at now is our main option. And that is number 1 comes over here, but they're going to run a dribble handoff with number 2. They're still going to come inside the three-point line so we can get some penetration going, but number 2 is going to receive this basketball here for the dribble handoff. Okay, now after number 1 gives the dribble handoff to number 2, they're going to set a screen right here. So we have number 1 doing the dribble handoff to number 2, and they're setting a screen. When number 2 comes off of that screen, number 5 is then going to move up as well and set another screen here for number 2. So we have 2 back-to-back stagger screens being set here for number 2, right? First one by number 1 and the second one by number 5, okay? And now we're going to run that same type of action. Number 5 is setting the second screen here. Number 1 is going to try to drive it to the basket, but number 5 is also going to roll to the basket. So we have our pick and roll here between number 2 and number 5. And in a similar situation now, we also have these players, number 4, number 3, and number 1, outside of the three-point line, ready to catch that ball. When they catch that ball, it can either be a drive, it can be a jump shot, it can be whatever you want it to be. Okay, let's take a look at this one more time with our main option here. Okay, so number 5's here. So we want a little bit of a penetration here, nothing too much, a little bit of a penetration, but then number 1 is going to look for number 5, and they're going to run that dribble handoff about right here. Okay, as number 1 gives the dribble handoff to number 2, they're setting a screen here for number 2. Okay, so the ball is now in number 2's hands, and number 2 is going to try to drive it to the basket. Okay, number 2 is running that drive to the basket. And number 1 is then going to pop to the three-point line. And then number 5 is going to come in and set that second screen, right? Number 2, like we said, is driving to the basket, maybe a little bit more tight than what I just had that player move toward. Number 5 is going to roll. Number 2 is going to cut to the basket. And then we have our shooters here on the outside, right? And they are ready to receive the ball if the defense collapses and we have some shooters wide open. So that is my favorite 4-out 1-in basketball drill. It is a great system, very similar to the 5-out motion offense in the sense that, you're just continuously moving, right? It's based on principles, right? We want to pass that ball and get the ball swinging. If we do have a defense collapsing right here in the key, we can kick it out, right? We can kick it out, or we can kick it out back here. And that is basically, the principles that we achieve with the 5-out motion offense, which is everybody's outside of the key. They're ready to shoot that basketball. They're ready to drive it if they need to. They're ready to swing the basketball. We're still going to keep those offensive principles the same, but we're going to start it a little bit differently, and that is with one player inside of the key. Now, are we using them to post up? In this particular play, no. We're using them to set that screen and drive to the basket for a roll. That's my favorite 4-out 1-in basketball play.